What's going on, everybody? It's AndrewJohn100 here, and welcome back to another video. Today, I'm gonna do a tier list of all the action figures created by Funko. For those who aren't familiar with Funko, they were the company behind most of the FNaF merch from 2016 all the way to 2024. So I'm gonna write down all the action figures they created from S to F, and again, this is purely my opinion. Alright, let's start with the first ones they created, the classic animatronics, with Freddy Fazbear. When I look back on these figures in hindsight, the sculpting on them hasn't aged well, and Freddy has some inaccuracies, such as the upper teeth and the striped hat on him. Toy Freddy is supposed to have that. But the figure isn't all bad. If there's one thing I'll give Funko, which Jazzwares didn't bother to do, was that they at least took the time to properly texture and paint them. And Freddy's colors are pretty on point here. So with all that, I'm gonna place Freddy at C. Not a terrible figure, it just hasn't aged well. And as for Bonnie, I do like how he comes with his guitar, and his guitar is fairly accurate to the game, though it's a little too clean, and Bonnie isn't supposed to have upper teeth. So overall, I think he gets placed at C too. Next up, we have Chica. Much like the other figures, she's not supposed to have upper teeth, and she also has some weird inconsistencies too. Like her eyes are orange where they should be purple, and the lettering on her bib is too dark of a color. But besides that, she at least comes with her cupcake, and she still looks okay. So I'm gonna place her at C. As for Foxy, he looks pretty good, and I do like how I like how despite the withering being molded, it's at least properly painted to be black. Do I wish his endoskeleton and his torso was painted a silver color? Yes, but he's still a decent figure, and I'll place him at B. Alright, now on to Golden Freddy. There isn't much I can say about Golden Freddy that I haven't said for Freddy. He's not supposed to have upper teeth, he's not supposed to have a stripe on his hat, and he's just a straight repaint of Freddy. Yes, Golden Freddy is just Freddy but colored gold, but in the games, he had empty eye sockets with white pupils piercing out of them. This figure lacks that, and he also can't sit down. So I think I'll place him at C. Okay, now on to Springtrap. Where would I place him? If I'm gonna be honest, I think I'm gonna place him at place him at an A tier. He's fairly game accurate to how he is in the games. The only thing that's off about him, I think, is the color used. He's a bit too yellowish when in the games he's meant to be green. That's really the only complaints I can find with him. Okay, we're done with the first wave. Now we're on to wave 2, being the Nightmare animatronics. Yeah, for some reason, Funko skipped over 2 games and just jumped straight to FNaF 4. That said, where would I rank Nightmare Freddy? I really can't find anything to complain about Nightmare Freddy. Everything about him is pretty accurate to how he looks in the games. The paintwork, and even the withering is on point. The only thing I can nitpick is that why does he come with 1 Freddle? He should have 3. But besides that, I'm gonna put him at A. Alright, now it's Nightmare Bonnie. I don't have much to complain about Nightmare Bonnie either. He looks pretty good, though I'm not a big fan of how they colored his eyes. Why are they white? They should be silver. But other than that, he's still a good looking figure. Alright, what about Nightmare Chica? Nightmare Chica is looking pretty good, but I don't like how fat her face is, and her right eye should be a paler color rather than the straight up blue color that they used. But besides that, she still looks pretty good, and I do like the inclusion of her cupcake, even though it's on the right when in the games it's clearly on the left. As for Nightmare Foxy, he's also looking pretty good. I mean, I guess some might complain about the withering being so blocky, but I can forget that since these were still the earlier figures, and how else could a Funko translated these intricate figures into toys? This was probably the best they could have done. And they still did a really good job on capturing the essence of the nightmares. So I'm gonna place them at A. Okay, now on to the most out of place inclusion of this wave. Funtime Foxy. Not Funtime Foxy from Sister's Location, but Funtime Foxy. Apparently, the original name for Pre-Mangle. How does she look? She looks okay. It is weird how her ball joints are painted silver when they should be the same color as her main color, and the way the eyelashes are painted looks a little sloppy. Not a bad figure, it's just nothing to write home about. I think I'm gonna place her at C. Alright, how about Nightmarian? Honestly, Funko did a great job with Nightmarian's design. The sculpting is on point, and everything, I really can't find anything to complain about. He looks just about right, so I think I'm gonna put him at S tier because I think the design is as accurate as it can be. Lastly, we have Jacko Chica. She's okay. There's nothing to write home about. She's basically just Nightmare Chica but recolored. But then again, Jacko Chica was a recolor too. The only different thing being her empty head and the pumpkin replacing her cupcake. It's an okay figure, just nothing to write home about. Now let's move on to Wave 3, that being the sister location line. I guess we're going in order of the games again, with Circus Baby. I think I'm gonna put Circus Baby at S tier. Funko nailed her design out of the park. I can't find anything to complain about this figure, so I consider her a top tier figure from Funko. Now let's discuss Funtime Foxy. Where does she go? Again, like Circus Baby, everything about his design is pretty accurate to how it is in the games. So I think I'm gonna place her in A tier. The only reason why he's not higher on the list is because while I like him, I don't like her quite as much as Circus Baby. What about Funtime Freddy? Where does he go? Another great figure by Funko, though there are some weird design choices with him, such as the black outline in the center of his face. Like, why did they decide to color that in, but not the rest of the faceplates? It just looks so jarring compared to everything else. And Bonbon's eyes do look a little too small, to the point where he looks a little bit creepy. But besides that, this is still a great looking figure. What about Ballora? Again, like the others, they nailed her design pretty much out of the park here, and I'm gonna place her in, I think I'm gonna place her in S tier. Alright, now on to Ennard. Where does he go? I think Ennard has a great range of articulation, and he looks pretty accurate to the games, but there's one thing that holds him back from being an S tier figure. That being the lack of eyebrows and the stripe on his hat. It's kind of funny that with the plushie, as terrible as it looks, has the eyebrows and the stripe, while the figure that looks miles better doesn't. But that doesn't ruin the whole figure, and he's still worthy of A tier for me. Alright, next up we have Lobit. There isn't much that I can say about Lobit, but I don't like how they kept his eyebrows. I mean, in the games, Lobit's not supposed to have eyebrows. I'm not going to complain about the body, since that was a purely stylistic choice on Funko, since he didn't have a body in the game. But besides that, it's an okay figure that I'm going to place at B. Let's move up to Wave 4 with Rockstar Freddy. Where would I place Rockstar Freddy? I think I'm gonna place him at B. He looks pretty good, though his hat does appear too small, and I don't think much of him, if I'm honest. Again, I don't care much for Rockstar Freddy. What about Rockstar Foxy? He too looks pretty good, but his pelvis is clearly recycled from Funtime Foxy's, and he does look a little more angrier than he should be. But besides that, he still looks pretty good, so I think I'm gonna place him at B. What about L-Chip? L-Chip is whatever to me. He looks good, but there's not much I can say about him. Next up, we have Lefty. Lefty is looking pretty good, but his hat does appear too small, and his missing left eye, or that piece where his left eye shouldn't be the same size as his other eye. And also, why is he right-handed, Funko? He's called Lefty for a reason. So, I think I'm going to place him in B too. Up next is Orville Elephant. He looks pretty accurate to the games, but it is weird how he has upper teeth when in the games he shouldn't have that. Again, how does Funko keep messing that up? There's not much I can say about him other than he's fine. He's good enough as he is. Now on to Pig Patch. Where does he go? Like with Orville, he looks pretty good, though it is weird how his feet are recycled from the FNaF 1 figures. But besides that, this figure is also just fine in my books. Alright, the last figure we have of Wave 4 is Scrap Baby. For a design as complicated as Scrap Baby, Funko really nailed it out of the park, and I'm gonna place her in S tier. There are some minor stuff like her left faceplate should be slightly discolored, But besides that, this is still a great representation of Scrap Baby. Okay, now let's move on to Wave 5 with the... Okay, you know what? Do I really need to explain why these figures are at D tier? Just look at them. Do you notice something? Yeah, these figures are the definition of lazy, and also inaccurate too. From their blocky designs and even the reused heads, like Monty and Glamrock Freddy have shared the same head as Funtime Freddy's. Glamrock Chica has FNaF 1 Chica's head, if you notice, and Roxanne Wolf has the head of Funtime Foxy from Wave 2. How these got approved by Scott is beyond me. It was bad enough that these figures got leaked, but the disappointment that was met with them when they were first shown was also something else. The hype before Security Breach was great, but these figures were definitely not one of them. Alright, next up we have Vanny. I really don't know what's going on with her face. Like, did they use early concept art when designing her? The only real positives I can give this figure is the body type is pretty accurate, and I do like the inclusion of her knife, but besides that, this figure ain't it, Chief. Now we're moving on to Wave 6 with Freddy Frostbear. Honestly, I'm so glad that they got rid of the upper teeth. Well, I'm not really the biggest fan of the translucent plastic here. It does look a little tacky. I would have preferred a more metallic look going for it. But other than that, this figure is still really good. And I can say the same for Easter Bonnie. The only real nitpick I have with him is the upper teeth. But besides that, I think he's an A tier character. Now on to Chocolate Bonnie, one of my top 5 favorite skins from AR. How did Funko do him? I have my gripes with him. He's too dark of a chocolate, and again, he's not supposed to have upper teeth. I do like that they replicated the missing chunks out of him, so there's that. So I think he's gonna be placed at B tier. Now on to Chocolate Freddy. I really like the way it looks. I like the candy teeth, the candy buttons, the chocolate poured on top of him. He's just a visually appealing figure to me, and I really wish that Illumix brought him to the actual game. I can also say the same thing for Chocolate Chica. Again, these figures would have been perfect for the 2021 Easter event, but instead, we were left with this piece of rabbit poo. And that's where Wave 6 ends. Now we're on to Wave 7 with the Curse of Dreadbear line, starting with Glitch Trap. For a first attempt of a Glitch Trap figure, this looks really good. Everything about him is pretty accurate to how he looked in Help Wanted. My only nitpick with him is that I really wish the color of his ball joints were the same color as the one on his suit. It would have blended in so much better. But besides that, it's still an A tier figure. Alright, now on to Dreadbear. I love the way this figure looks. From the withering, the sculpting. The only thing I can complain about is the color used here. It's too light of a green. It should be a more of an olive green. But besides that, I love the way this figure looks. Now on to a not so great figure, Grim Foxy. I will say, the sculpting is not bad. It looks accurate to how Grim Foxy looks in the games, but where this figure goes wrong is the use of translucent plastic. I genuinely don't know what Funko was going for. Were they attempting to replicate the glowing look that he had in Curse of Dreadbear? If they did, then they didn't replicate it very well. They should have just made the inner color translucent and just painted the torso, pelvis, and head normally. And on top, and the colors are completely wrong. His pants are orange. He in general just looks too bright. And it sucks too, because this figure could have been so much better, but the translucent plastic ruins it for me. And the same thing could be said about Jackal Bonnie. Why it took Funko this long to release Jackal Bonnie in action figure form is beyond me. And even then, he has the same problems as Grim Foxy. The translucent plastic really hurts the look of the figure, and he just looks so jarring compared to his partner in crime, Jacko Chica. Funko should have just painted him the same way they did with Jacko Chica. Then he would have looked so much better. So, I too am going to have to place him in D tier. Last but not least, we have Captain Foxy. He looks fairly accurate to how he looks in the Captain Foxy minigame, and there's not much I can really say about that, so he's okay. Next up, we have Wave 8 with the Arcade Mayhem skins. and 2 skins from the Wasteland event. Now, why Funko decided to do skins based off of the toy animatronics but not do the toy animatronics themselves is beyond me. But how does VR Toy Freddy compare? Honestly, he looks really good. I can't find much to complain about. I like how the glitchy texture, I guess it's called, is actually molded into the plastic. And I think the translucent plastic does work here. And what's cool is that he glows in the dark. And I actually owned this figure once, and I remember him glowing in the dark pretty well. So I'm gonna place him in A tier. And the same thing can be said for Systemair Toy Bonnie. Systemair Toy Bonnie was never one of my favorite skins. I liked him, but I didn't love him either. But his representation in action figure form was done decently. The ball joints could be painted red, but it's not a huge big of a deal. So I think I'm gonna place him in B tier. What about High Score Toy Chica? High Score Toy Chica looks pretty good. I like the inclusion of the 8-bit cupcake, but much like her skin, there's not much to discuss about her. She's just okay. So I'm gonna place her, so she too gets placed at B. What about Radioactive Foxy? I really can't find anything to complain about. He looks pretty accurate to how he looked in FNaF AR. So I think he gets ranked in A tier. As for Toxic Springtrap, he too looks pretty good with the sculpted and warts, the veins, and all the things that make Toxic Springtrap iconic. But his eyes are not the correct color, and his nose is painted yellow for some reason, when it should be the same color as his suit. So I think he too gets placed at B. As for VR Toy Freddy's attack variant, I really don't have much to say about this variant, and I never really cared for it. So it looks accurate. I'll give it that, but because I don't care for it that much, I'm gonna place it at C. Alright, now we have Shamrock Freddy. Other than the upper teeth, I really like the way this figure looks. He goes straight into A, like with Freddy Frostbear. Alright, last of Wave 8, we have Liberty Chica. I really don't know where I want to place the skin at. I mean, it's accurate. It's accurate to the skin it's based off of, but I don't like. But the thing is, I don't like the skin that it's based off of. So I may just get placed at C. Okay, now we're on to probably the weirdest wave Funko has ever released. Wave 9. I have no feelings towards these figures whatsoever. I do appreciate that Funko went out of their way to make new molds for them, but what was the general theme going for them? Were they couldn't be for a new game, because it's been a couple of years since then and we've heard nothing regarding their relevance to upcoming games. So I really don't know what to say about them. I think I'm gonna place actually, I think I'm just gonna place them at D tier, because I don't care for them. I don't hate them. If I hated them, then I would have placed them at F tier. But I just don't care for them. Next up is Firework Freddy. Again, like with Liberty Chica, the skin, this figure is accurate to the skin that it's based off of, but I'm not a fan of the skin of it itself. I think I'm gonna place him in C tier too. Actually, he lacks the upper teeth, so that puts him up a bit higher. Last figure of Wave 9 is Blackheart Bonnie. He looks good. The transparent plastic does work here, and he does look relatively faithful to how he looks in the game, so I'll give him that. So I'll place him in B tier. Now on to Wave 10 with the Christmas line, and if I'm gonna be honest, I don't really mind this line that much. At least it's not lazy like some other lines that I'll get into later. But I do get why some would turn a blind eye to them. For Santa Freddy, I do like the red freckles and nose. It does play into the rosy cheeks trope that Saint Nick is known for. So I'll place him in B tier. Elf Bonnie is a bit of a strange choice. I mean, if BB had a figure, I could have seen them doing an Elf BB figure. but Bonnie isn't a bad choice either, so I guess I'll place him in B tier. Snow Chica is also a pretty neat concept. I liked how the sculpting isn't the same on each side, and it is different in some areas. And her lower legs being made out of sticks is pretty clever, so that gets placed at B tier. Gingerbread Foxy is also a neat idea that's put well into practice. I like how his eye patch is replaced with peppermint, and the outlines of his details are represented through icing. Oh, and also the candy cane replacing his hook is a cute touch. So I'm gonna place him in B2. As for Nutcracker Foxy, he's pretty ugly if I'm gonna be honest. And I think a Nutcracker Golden Freddy would have been better. Now let's move on to Daycare Attendant in his sun form. He looks pretty much perfect to how he looks in the games. It's almost as if Funko were apologizing for how terrible the main Glamrock figures were, and so they worked extra hard on Sun's figure to apologize. He's definitely an A tier character. And the same thing can be said for his Moon variant. He too is very accurate to how he looks in the games. These definitely made up for the Glamrock figures from the other wave. I can't say the same for this though. Generally, what is this? What is the point of this? This is pointless. It's so pointless that it's worthy of F tier. We could have gotten a Burn Trap figure, yet we're left with this lazy thing. Now on to Wave 11, aka the last slime that Funko ever done. And I gotta be honest, these figures look amazing. Everything about them is pretty much on point. It's like Funko knew that this would be their last waves, and so they decided to go all out with them. And I'm glad that they did. These three figures are definitely S tier ranking. Okay, now we're done with the main waves. Let's move on to the miscellaneous ones with the Blacklight figures. You know, I'm not the biggest Blacklight fan either, but their color schemes definitely carry them for me. They're not great by any means, but I do like the color schemes used on here. With Bonnie's watermelon scheme, Chica's almost grape looking color scheme, and I especially like Foxy's color scheme here. Green and yellow just really works, and they do look cool under a black light, which is definitely their gimmick. I'm just gonna place Foxy in A tier because again, I just really like that color scheme, and he has a colored in endoskeleton, so that gives him a few extra points. All right, now we're on to these lazy things, aka the tie-dye wave. The fact that these were approved by Scott baffles me. At least with the Blacklight figures, they had something going for them, but the only gimmick that these have going for them are their tie-dye scheme, and that's it. They don't glow in the dark, there's nothing to them. So again, they're all going into F tier. We could have had a Withered wave finally, or even a toy animatronic wave, but instead Funko gave us these ugly things. Speaking of the next figure, the only thing I will give the tie-dye wave is that they gave us an Arctic Ballora figure, which looks pretty good actually. The only nitpick I have with this figure is the translucent plastic, but that's really about it, and it doesn't ruin the whole figure. Okay, next up we have Glow-in-the-Dark Foxy, a figure that barely glows according to animatronic, and his color scheme is wrong too, so I'm gonna place him in F tier. And from my personal experience, Glow-in-the-Dark Baby also goes into F tier. She barely glows, and she smells terrible too. When I had this figure, it smelled like rotten eggs. Let me know if yours had a similar smell. Okay, next up we have the Glow-in-the-Dark FNaF 6 figures. These are all going to D tier. I have minimal experience with these figures, and I don't even know if they glow well. If you've had these figures, let me know if they glow well. Okay, the last wave are the Jumbo waves, starting with Freddy Fazbear. As a display item, he looks pretty good, but I really wish that Funko went back and fixed the figure's flaws, like the upper teeth and the stripe around its hat. Or better yet, create an entirely new mold for the figure. The sculpting for this figure hasn't aged well, and it definitely could have used an upgrade. But despite this, it makes for a neat display piece. So I'm gonna place it in B tier. Actually, no. I think I'm gonna place it in C. And Jumbo Bonnie, I think, also goes into C tier. It has the same flaws as the smaller action figure of Bonnie, but I do like the guitar that it came with it. I think it would go well. It goes well with the Funko Bonnie plushie. And with that said, this is my entire tier list of the FNaF Funko action figures. Maybe I'll do one for the Funko plushies, but we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. This is AndrewJohn100 signing off, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.